long shared that a lot of the best agents I know in the industry came in during the hardest of times. And today I'm talking with someone who is just lighting it on fire. And she started the first month of the slowest year in real estate since 1995. Kayla Skurski, I'm excited for you to share how you did all this, how you made it happen. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So when you got into real estate, did you have any idea that you would be starting your new career during the slowest year from a transaction perspective since 1995? So that is what, that's an 18-year span.
hmm No, I actually had no idea. I was just going to hopefully make it work.
Yep.
Yeah.
And here is the most exciting thing for me is because we've been at this for a while. I founded Redwood back in 2002, so we just turned 21 years old in November. So I felt it was slow, but I suspect for you it sort of feels like normal conditions, right?
Yes, exactly.
And what in and I mean everybody knows how this ends if you look into the future in 10 years. You know, Kayla is used to rowing, right? In very slow conditions. So what happens? She's going to row, she's going to get stronger, and the conditions are going to improve. So I'm going to be on the Kayla Skursky show this time, what, like 5 years from now,
Hope.
talking to you about how you just crossed some crazy
Mhm.
milestone. Okay, so what inspired you? I'm sure people would love to hear that to get into real estate.
Yeah. So, a little backstory actually, the reason why I came to Redwood too is because my boyfriend's stepmom was actually my broker. So
Okay.
that's kind of how I got started in
Mhm.
real estate or became interested. And then she referred us to a great real estate agent within Redwood. And she was our agent through our buying process. So I got to see firsthand how it worked, the ins and outs of the showings, what you're kind of looking for. And she was just a tremendous agent. So learning from her and seeing it, and we put in multiple offers, we did above ask, we did things like that as the market kind of picked up and then slowed down, and we lost a few houses. So it was really cool to be in kind of the trenches with her and see the day to day of how it really worked.
That is so refreshing to hear.
hmm
So you were inspired, if you will, by Caitlin's performance during
hmm
some tough buying conditions. Is that fair?
yes, yes, we
Yep.
lost. We put in three offers on three different places, I think, and we were out one. There were 16 offers on one house. we
Yeah.
we just had no shot. And then the third house we lost as well, and we were only one of three. And then the fourth or the third house, we actually was the one we loved the most, and there was only two offers on that one, and they chose us. So, it
Yes.
so up and down, yeah. So it was crazy, the process.
Yeah, and so she managed your emotions.
hmm
That's great. What's refreshing for me is I've heard so many stories like this of I got into real estate because my real estate agent was a monkey moron, and I felt like people need more help than is out there. And so it's
yes,
really cool that you came into this saying, I want to do for other people what Caitlin Rosenko did
hmm
did for us when we bought a house. So that's really neat.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you do all this. You still have another job, right? At the time, slowly
Yes.
you were taking on less hours. Was it
hmm
difficult to balance doing a dual
Yeah.
career as you got started?
So when I got started, I guess a little backstory too is I took 11 tries to pass my national portion of my exams. Taking my tests were just extremely difficult. I was going after work some days. It was a lot of studying and things like that, but also working full time. So when I got my license, I was determined to not let that be my career. I failed my test so many times by like less than 3 or 4 points every single time. So it became like super frustrating. But when I was working for my nanny, so I'm a nanny very part time now, I was nannying Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then after that, I put on my realtor hat and I was doing multiple showings. I was getting home 9, 10 o'clock at night. And it was a lot. And I knew that if I didn't grind with real estate, that I was going to have to do both forever. And I was becoming burnt. I was becoming burnt out in the first 3 or 4 months. So I knew that if I put my head down and really grinded with real estate, that I could replace, my full-time job. And that was the mom's a school teacher that I nanny for. And that my goal was by that summer to drop down to 1 day a week. And that's what I was able to do.
Okay, that's great. So I
Mhm.
love that you're using the word grind as well. So walk me through, because you've been averaging about a sale per month since you started, which is
Yes.
fabulous. A lot of people,
Mhm.
we can coach them. Hey, it can take 6 months to sell your first house, and you're so rapidly outpacing that. So walk me
Yes.
through what it was like to sell that first transaction. So where did you
Hmm.
meet your first client?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So my first client, I didn't grow up around here, so my online presence with social media had to be strong. I didn't really have a sphere of influence. I had close family and friends, but I knew that the biggest, factor was going to be my social media. So my thing was getting my name out there. People didn't know really who I was, so I wanted them to know who I was. And I was in Facebook pages, local groups, local Facebook pages, and I started primarily advertising myself as like a rental agent. So anytime someone would put a comment in and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a rental in such and such town. This is what we're looking for," I would be the first person to comment on it. And eventually, I would put comments in, I would get responses. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But my first client, she was looking for a rental. They had 3 big dogs and they were having a hard time. So I ended up pulling kind of her out of the Facebook group and messaging with her. And they stated that they had really good credit scores. However, they didn't really have a lot of money for, closing costs or down payment, things like that. So I was able to learn about the first time home buyer programs. And a lot of people, when they're renting, don't realize that there are these grants for first time home buyers to be able to utilize. So that was kind of where I started with my first client, was transferring her from a renter to a buyer and really just showing
Yeah.
her that it was possible. Now, she was approved for not that much, but it was enough to get
Hmm.
a roof over her head and to be
Yeah,
able to keep her dogs. So that's kind of where I got started with
that's exactly it.
converting her.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So walk me through that first conversation. Were you nervous about that? Like, hey, it's dawned on me that when you looking to buy a home, you don't have to ask the people selling, hey,
Hmm.
is it okay if I have 3 dogs? So
Right.
here's what I learned. And then was she immediately like, heck yeah, I'm in?
Yeah, yeah. So it was her and her boyfriend, and they both had credit scores over 700. And the owner of their rental property was selling the home. So she had to be out within 30 days. So we had her pre-approval done, and she got pre-approved with the Maryland Mortgage Program, and under contract within 2 weeks and a 30-day close. So she didn't even have to worry about being at the house any longer. So the first conversation with her really was learning that, they both have steady income. It's just seeing what was possible because nobody had walked them through that process before. And helping them. And if they didn't get approved, I was still going to help them try to find a rental as well. But they were open to the idea of, hey, let's try it and see what happens.
Yeah, I love so much about this. So first of all, you're putting yourself out there. It's impressive enough that you're at this pace uh, in basically your first year in the industry. It's
Mhm.
it's even more impressive. No, impressive, not oppressive. Impressive, knowing that you're coming into this area sort of as a newbie, newer to the area, new to the industry. Second of all, you're relentless in the sense that you are actively seeking out the element of real estate that sort of pays the worst, which is representing tenants. But we're in a business that's all about relationships, and so when you can give a tenant great service, even though the compensation is not as high, you're building up that referral base, and then you're also always looking out for your client's best interest because you were able to realize, hey, there's a much easier path here that is likely going to put you on a pathway to accumulating wealth and being able to keep your dog and worry less. So kudos to that. So most successful social media, your social media presence, are you still on the Facebook groups?
Yeah. So as time went on,
Mm-hmm.
if you posted about a rental, I was pretty much on every comment.
Hmm.
Like if you were looking for a rental, to the point where towards like the end of the year last year, I started getting emails. I would put my email address, my phone number, because that way they could come off of social media, like off
Yeah,
of the Facebook platform and come directly to me. And that my last 3 sales last year came from people wanting to start the home buyer process, but they had seen my name pop up so many times in the Facebook groups and putting myself out there that I was open to giving me a text, giving me a call, or shooting me an email. That eventually, you know, that's how they kind of came off the
yeah.
Facebook page. But I would say I'm on it still. I've kind of taken a step back from it more, and but it's still, still there.
Yeah. Okay. And then
Mm-hmm.
your other sources. So
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, walk me on that.
Yep. Yep. I use Instagram, especially for stories. I like to be kind of in your face. So, like, if you wake up in the morning, like I'm up, I'm, starting my day. And I've kind of dabbled over on TikTok a little bit as well, just to kind of throw my name around. I've kind of just gained some followers on there, and they're now coming off of TikTok to come to see my social medias as well.
Great. And then YouTube, are you on YouTube as
I
well?
am not on YouTube.
Okay. Well, there we
Yeah.
go. Maybe that's a coaching moment. You could consider that. You know
could
what
could
what
consider that.
I love about YouTube is so we're going to record today two different types, right? We're going to do the
Mhm.
YouTube Shorts. We'll put that on Instagram as well. So that gives you sort of the immediacy people seeing on a daily basis, but then you
Right.
get the long form. So in
Hmm.
your case, probably is Charlestown your
Yep.
target market? Yep. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah. So I'm currently not licensed in West Virginia. I'm working
Oh, I
on my
see.
West
Okay, gotcha.
Virginia license. Yeah. So I
Hmm.
am in Maryland mostly.
Okay, gotcha.
So Maryland, and then I do have my license in Virginia as well. I got that
Okay.
this past late last year, and then now I'm working on
Hmm.
West Virginia. So I'm hoping, just like us, when we moved from Brunswick, Maryland, over to Charlestown. So I want to be able to help anybody that's relocating in any three of the states. And that way, if they need someone in Virginia, I could be that person. But if they actually want to move to Maryland, I could be that person, or then West Virginia. So my main target was Frederick, Maryland for majority of last year.
Okay. So long form video recommendation live on the air. I would say doing some content about the differences between renting and buying. You've already got one great story to lead with. And I understand from just our previous conversations that you have worked with a lot of the people that contacted you to rent wound up buying. I think it was something like 80-90% of your sales you met because they wanted to rent and then they wound up buying.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's basically how it how it started.
You're
Mm-hmm.
like the purchase whisperer.
I try.
Yeah, or the tenant whisperer, however you do
Tenant
it. How
whisperer.
do
Yeah.
how does the topic come up?
So I'm kind of blunt on it. I kind of put some feelers out. I
Mhm,
kind of say, "Hey, what do you do for work?"
mhm,
That way I can see kind of their job history. If they're bouncing around job, 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 but if they've
mhm.
been at the same place for 2 years, that's
Yeah,
kind of where I start, and then I kind of go with, they're going to need to know your credit score for renting. They're going to need to know your
yeah.
credit score for buying. So I just come out and say, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you, what is your credit around? Where do you want to improve on it? And they open up about it and they say, well, my credit's a little low. Trying to work on it, or I went through a bankruptcy, or something that might pop up. But I have worked with a few different lenders who can work with lower credit. So trying to build the credit or credit repair program. So I'll refer them to a credit repair person. So really kind of just getting the information from them first was kind of how I started it.
It's funny, when I was working directly with clients, I had a similar practice where I would ask people, "How's your credit?" And then it was like every fraction of a second it took them to answer that told me their score, right? So, how's your credit? Perfect. That's like an 800, you know? How's your credit? It's pretty good. 700, right? How's your credit? How's your credit? Um, we're now in the sixes, and we have some work to do. So, but great job that you just instinctively, had these tougher conversations. Another thing that I'm picking up on is that you're really good at taking people sort of off social media and having those direct one-on-one conversations. Aside from
Mm-hmm.
the Facebook groups, is that something you're able to do on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok as well?
Yeah, so once I brought them like in like DMs, let's just say, I try to get their email, so then that way they're on like an email list, and then I will set up a Zoom meeting with them because a lot of times it's hard for the spouse and the wife or whoever to schedule a meeting with all three of us for everybody's schedule to work. So I would do some type of meeting, usually like a Zoom meeting. So then you're face to face with them. They kind of know my personality. They get to know, how I operate and things like that. So that's kind of how I get them off of the platform. And then they're in my contact, for life. So
Yeah, that's it. And then do you typically, if somebody's converting from rental into purchase, are you showing them rentals and then at one point they just start looking at homes for purchase as well?
So normally it would be they would get a pre-approval first,
Hmm.
and then
Gotcha.
if they started seeing some things, and then they would send them the MLS listings, kind of what they were looking for, the towns that they're thinking of, or where they want to be, distance to work, and then we would start going to see places, and if something popped up that they liked, I would make sure that I put them in my schedule, and we're able to go and see it right away.
Want to talk about the importance of mindset during the early part of a real estate career because we started this and I launched right into all the success you've been having, but I'm sure you must have had some pockets of time during this first year where it was tough to stay motivated. Is that the case, or are you just like a natural, you're just always on top of it?
Yeah, for me, the biggest transition was leaving my full time job. That was like the
Yeah.
biggest transition for me because I was, I love the little boy that I nanny, but
Yeah.
my brain was so on real estate when I was with him that I wasn't present,
Hmm.
and I didn't love that. And vice
Yeah.
versa. When I would go do showings at 5, 6 o'clock or 7, I'm tired from nannying all day.
Hmm.
And if the next day that they wanted to put an offer in, I have to get up and go to work. So it was really hard for me to turn off my, nanny hat, put on my real estate hat, and vice versa. And so I knew that I didn't want to do that forever. I wanted to be, so now Wednesdays is the only day I nanny, and I'm fully present with him, and I don't take calls. Everybody, all my clients know Wednesday I'm unavailable for showings. I'm unavailable for, any phone calls, unless obviously if you're in the middle of a transaction, things are going to come up and emergencies are going to come up. You might have to answer the phone or answer an email. But for the most part, it made me feel better because I could be fully present with him. It's a mental break from real estate as well. So Monday, Tuesday is busy. Wednesday's nanny day. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I can do whatever I need to do for real estate and what that might look like. So mindset wise was really knowing that I couldn't keep that up for a very long time. I would say three months I was pretty much tapped out, and I was spending a lot of money in gas and a lot of miles traveling back and forth through all the states. So it took a big toll. So just as soon as I was able to go full time, I took the opportunity. So
Was it nervous? So I heard that that it was tough because
mm-hmm.
you love the child that you nanny. But were you nervous about your ability for income when you decided to make the change, or had you just
Yes.
known that it was time?
Yes and no. So I, whenever I would get a nanny paycheck and I would get a real estate paycheck, I was putting my real estate into savings. So technically, I was kind of doubling my income in those 3, 4 months so that I knew when I went full time, I'd have a buffer for, oh, at that point, almost 4 or 5 months, a buffer of, pay.
Yes. Well, I have no doubt. This is like this whole interview, this whole conversation is just like a template for amazing things to come. And I know that years from now, we're going to look back at this video and you're going to get to see yourself. And it's just that if there was a template for success, involving somebody's mindset,
Mm-hmm.
Kayla, you exemplify everything that we would like to see in a in a
Thank you.
new in a new agent. And I can't tell you how refreshing this is. So, what are your plans for 2024? Like,
Ugh.
where do you see your business coming from this year?
Yeah. So at the end of last year, I was really doing well converting from open houses. I tried to just do more on the weekend because I kind of had more of the time. My boyfriend, we don't have kids, so right now my focus is my business, and I want to launch it and making sure that I have a great foundation for when we do start a family down the road. So I am out on the weekends. I am, hosting open houses for other agents, which just gets my face out there too. So for me this year, I want to do 24 transactions, which is doubling my business from last year. I thought 24 last year was kind of, 2024 being the year. I just really, can see that happening, especially as the spring market picks up, hopefully. But
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Mhm.
gonna happen, no doubt. You're gonna
Thank you.
you're gonna have that, and the ability to get yourself in front of folks
Mhm.
in front of these open houses. I'd also suggest stay on the approach that's been working. So engaging with people in these Facebook
Yes.
groups about rentals, and then
Hmm.
keeping that mindset. I'm sure you'll probably go through a string of people that actually rent, but what you're doing is you're building that database that you're just going to be
Right.
consistently marketing to. All right, so I can't wait to check back in February of 2025, and we're going to see. I would bet a lot of money right now that you're going to cross that 24 transaction threshold. So, thank you, Kayla. Thank you, everybody, for
Hmm.
watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. If you love everything that Kayla had to say, how could you not? Hit the like button. If you have questions for us, ask them in the comment section. And see you again real soon. See you soon, Kayla. Congrats on an amazing start to your career.
Thank you.